Hello, and thank you for joining our Dayshape webinar today. We're here to discuss why automation is essential for your firm's resource management practices. We'll also be sharing our insights into the ways in which leading firms are embracing automation to empower their people and deliver more strategic value. As we go, please feel free to drop any questions for us in the Q&A section, and we'll save time to cover those at the end. So let's meet today's speakers.
Hi, I'm Richard Cassidy. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer here at Dayshape, and I clearly have trouble finding my mute button.
Hello, I'm Sam Dupin. I'm the Customer Success Manager at Dayshape. It's great to be here with you all. I'll be looking forward to answering some of your questions during Q&A.
Thanks, Sam. Okay, so let me just load up the agenda slide for you folks. Okay, thanks very much all for joining. We hope you'll find this to be really, really helpful. And here's an outline of what we'll be covering today through the webinar. Firstly, why automation is essential. Secondly, the benefits for people and business associated with that automation. And thirdly, how to embrace that automation. At the end, we'll do a Q&A, and we anticipate that we could arrive at the Q&A maybe around 25 past or close to half past the hour, looking to leave ourselves a good 15 minutes or so at the end there to cover that. So without further ado, getting straight into it. So diving right in, automation is essential for successful resource management, and we're going to share why and hopefully equip you with what you need to know as part of all of that. So resource management really is at the crux of evolving the workforce planning strategy. And doing this effectively is vital because these practices ultimately drive and dictate project performance and results. Your resources are the highest cost base and the primary driver of revenue. So it really couldn't be more. Time equals money. And when done right, resource management is the strategic discipline behind your firm's ability to deliver first-class client service and outperform the competition. So I think we're all agreed that automation is essential. So if I go on and describe in a bit more detail the need and want for automation, we really find that it usually comes about as a result of a lack of resources, firstly. So shortage of skilled talent, worsened recently by the Great Resignation that we've all been experiencing. And it's becoming a lot more competitive out there as well. Employees have far more choice and control over where and how they want to work and what working conditions they're willing to accept. So first real need and driver behind it. Secondly, increasing costs. Of course, ever rising inflation, salary increases created by the Great Resignation and ongoing skills gaps, and the ever-increasing battle to secure the best talent in your firm. And also, I think maybe that perceived or actual rising costs as the old normal returns. So thinking about how things were during the pandemic, and actually we were probably making some cost savings, we may feel those as increasing costs as we move back into the old normal. And that's you can use that one. Thirdly, we've got then reduced time. So it all seems like there is much more to do and far less time to do it in. And in some cases, we're seeing and hearing that fewer jobs are being replaced when someone actually leaves an organization. Now, for firms that we deal with, it could also be that they just don't know how much capacity they need due to a lack of visibility. This is probably less about automation, but certainly is the first step in implementing the right core resource management solution by knowing at least your capacity and your demand and your view of everything from that perspective. I was actually speaking to a partner at a global top 10 firm last week, and she was telling me that they still manually review budget submissions via Excel, and they don't have a way to get notified if engagements are at risk of an overrun. And so these are things which should absolutely be automated nowadays, and things that firm in particular is very eager to remedy. But I think I say it doesn't surprise me when I hear things like that these days, but I think it still does a little bit. But everyone's looking to move in the right direction, and just some are going at a different pace than others. But I think everyone has got the right kind of idea to go in the right direction. Anyway, in summary, the perennial challenge has always been, and I think will continue to be, how do I do more with less? And these are the challenges that we see firms of all sizes dealing with, and things that I think will be common for all of you attending this webinar today. Taking a switch in focus then, looking more with an industry focus to what's going on, and what we've seen and heard from customers and networks, and our networks and customers' networks, is that the landscape has changed, and there are some key considerations to keep in mind here. So there is a need for continued technological leaps. Back in 2018, 2019, I was reading about 3 top 10 firms announced investments in digital and technology-oriented services, solutions, training, and leadership, which is worth a combined $9 billion. So that kind of leaping forward and step in investment is key back then, and I'm sure that's just increasing at an exponential rate now. In the years leading up to those announcements, accounting organizations and academics were already exploring technology trends to change the accounting landscape. And so a particularly prescient survey from the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, the ACCA, in 2013, pointed to a whole list of things here: mobile connectivity, cloud-based systems, digital service delivery, cybersecurity, robotics, and artificial intelligence as some of the technologies with the biggest potential to impact the profession over the next decade. And it concluded with the scarily accurate prediction: unless accountants, and I quote, "unless accountants embrace technology, they will follow the dinosaur into extinction individually and as a profession." Yikes. So this stuff is sort of being backed up by revenues that we're seeing generated by automation tools. So these are projected to grow, again, that 9 billion number seems to be a theme, but they are projected to grow by about 9 billion by 2026. And most of these tools are directly targeting accounting and finance industries, but we hope in a nice way and in a helpful way. And I think at large, we are seeing that it's in a helpful way. We're seeing things being automated that should be automated, rather than the scary robots are coming to take over kind of automation. And we'll probably cover a bit more of that throughout this talk as well. Secondly, the industry focus: centralized resource management. So there's a growing acceptance and appetite now for resource management to be a strategic practice rather than purely an administrative and reactive one. Firms are increasingly looking at resource management as a lever for strategic advantages, is what we're seeing. It kind of felt in the past like we were broadcasting a message advocating centralized resource management, but firms are now opening conversations with us around their goals to become more centralized in their resource management, setting out their roadmap towards that and how we can help them achieve that, or just generally chatting about those things at networking events. So that's really interesting to see the kind of the evolution of the firm's mindset. And then lastly, we've got the employee-centric culture. This is another big shift. So putting people and purpose top of the priority list is huge in relation to automation, and one that will come out a bit more as we talk through this presentation. So what we're seeing and hearing is an increasing need for automation to support firms to become a lot more agile and a lot more innovative. And these introduce processes that really redress that balance between profitability, client service, and employee satisfaction. So if you imagine those three things, that profitability, client service, and employee satisfaction triangle, these are oftentimes competing priorities in some shape, form, or another. With automation, that big picture can be looked at with all those competing priorities balanced well. And that's something, again, big part of the drive towards centralized resourcing for a firm. I'm going to sort of play a few sort of results here that we saw. These stats came from the Resource Management Institute's 2022 State of the Resource Management research paper. This same research also highlighted that the perception that only 48% of C-suite viewed resource management as strategic. So our view really is that that provides an incredible opportunity for those not yet honing resource management as an asset to start doing so. The results in this one I want to draw our attention to really is the change over 3 years and how difficult it now seems to be to find and hire resource managers. So something that's quite a poignant shift there. And we're pretty sure through research we've read and people we speak to every day, having the right technology in place to help attract, enable, retain and develop the best resource managers is becoming increasingly important. So you obviously want to get the best in and keep them. And you want to get the up and comers in, develop them, nurture those, and make them into the strategic people that they can be in that role. And I think that's something that's quite telling from that paper. That was the RMI's Resource Management Institute's State of Resource Management Research paper 2022, if you'd like to check that out. I would like to take a moment to put the spotlight on everybody here. So I want to have a look at, do a quick poll, if you don't mind. Where is your firm on the journey to resource management? And so we've got a few options for you here to have a little look at. We've got that they're not using it, you're considering it, you are actively pursuing it, you are using it already, or it is fully embedded within your organization. So where are you on that journey? Give you just a few moments to fill that. Seeing the numbers change and jump around here is quite interesting. It's quite evenly spread. Don't actually know if you can see the results yet, but probably not. I'll probably have to end it and share it, but we'll see how that's coming through. Okay, I'll just start to wrap that up. Okay. Yeah, okay. So as we see, it's pretty, well, actually, it's impressive. It's impressive. Seeing people not using, that's great. Embedded, there's some which have already got embedded. That is excellent, really top notch. Considering, pursuing, using, pretty even split there across the audience. So yeah, that's good. I guess, yeah, I didn't know what we would see coming back from that, to be perfectly honest. So I can't tell you whether that, you know, it surprises me or not, but I like it. I like seeing that result. I like seeing the fact that everybody is really actively in that space, whether thinking about it, doing it, or using it, and that those with it embedded already, you know, props to you. Fantastic stuff. Really good. Okay. Right. I'll move us on then. So I want to talk a bit now about attitudes to automation. So wherever your firm is on that journey, the ability to effectively implement automation will require overcoming some fears and some objections, and I'm seeking to list some of the most common ones here that you probably all find to be quite familiar as well. So wherever you're on that journey, implementing automation does require overcoming some challenges. So a loss of jobs. I'll talk through some of these, give you add a bit of color to them. So if you're hearing these great misunderstandings from people in your firm, scribble down a few things I'm going to say here, and hopefully that'll give you the ammo you need to convince them otherwise. But yeah, the whole loss of jobs thing. Technology replaces people and we become obsolete. This fear doesn't align with what we're seeing in the market. I mean, it doesn't align with what I've seen over years and years in software anyway, but certainly doesn't align with what we're seeing in the market. There aren't enough people to do the jobs currently. So how can that be the reality? Automation also won't replace people, but it will replace low value manual tasks. And that's what we want it to do. So that makes sense. Contrary to popular fears about job losses as well, the World Economic Forum predicts that automation will result in a net increase of about 58 million jobs, I think, over the next 5 or so years. So in actual fact, it's going the opposite way to what people are really worried about. Then there's the loss of control piece, where we're concerned that bots leave people out of all the decision making. But no, automation doesn't mean a loss of control. So you can automate onerous processes, but still review what's being done and make further changes to fine tune. So one of our customers many years ago, I say many years, maybe it feels like many years ago, but a good 5 or 6 years ago, I think, they switched their resource management team from allocators to validators. And what that means is that within 6 months of implementing the software, they had switched 70% of their resource management people from allocating work to validating what the software was saying. And that means that they were looking at the decisions made, comparing it with what they might have done, considering the real world that maybe the software can't always consider, and validating those decisions, and really working in tandem in a genuine kind of value add way with the software. So that was a really great thing to hear back in 2014, I think it was, which is of course more than 6 years ago now. But I think the pandemic black hole has just sort of left that blank in most of our memories. So thirdly, then there's a loss of knowledge and skills. If there's one thing over the years that automation has taught us, it's that progress is dependent on and ultimately moves forward thanks to innovation of ideas and automation. So this goes right from introducing machines to 18th century manufacturing. Lots of good stories about that. Thinking about the lamplighters, switching from lamplighters to electric streetlights and big strikes that took place in New York back in the time when that was happening. And also not too long ago, ATMs allegedly were going to replace bank tellers. So naturally caused some disruption, but actually created a lot of opportunity, because in fact, between 1970 and 2019, there were 400,000 ATMs installed across the US. And in the same period, the number of bank tellers employed more than doubled from 250,000 to over 500,000. So it just goes to show, introduce automation, you're actually creating opportunities. You're not, some jobs may change and go, but more jobs are created and more is created as a result of it. So it can only really be a good thing. On the biases side of things, some people say that biases will be reinforced by automation. So i.e. like automation bias, where there's a tendency to depend excessively on automated systems, which then can lead to mistaken automation information overriding correct decisions. And this is kind of the kind of automation anxiety that, as far as I'm told, dates way back to the late 16th century. I have to dig out some examples by the person I was talking to before about that. But these are common misconceptions that really can still very much prevail. So I would say these are the great misunderstandings of automation. But find one sort of scare story, and you'll find 3 or 4 really great positive stories on the other side as well. So with all that, let me jump into just one more poll, if you don't mind. So what is preventing your firm from implementing resource management automation? And for this, we've got 4 responses, but it's not a single choice. You can select as many as you like. So what we're really looking to find out here is what is preventing your firm from implementing resource management automation? Is it the knowledge? Do you just not know what the right solution is or where to look for that solution? Is it confidence? Does maybe your leadership and other people not have the buy-in in what it can do? Potentially investment, time and financial investment. Are these things that are holding you back from it? Or maybe there's an adoption challenge. Could it be that the culture you've got is a little more resistant to change? And is that what makes it more difficult for you? Or is there another? I don't particularly like the other option. I think it's a bit of an out, but I understand that some of you have put that. So if you want to expand on that for us in the chat, that would be incredibly helpful to shed light with us and everybody else on the session to see what that is. Be particularly interested if you've got more there to share. Okay, great. Results coming through. Okay. Right. So we're seeing that knowledge is actually a sort of clear leader there. Half of the people saying, oh, sorry, not half, of course, because it's multi-select here, but we're seeing half the reasons coming through as knowledge. Investment, okay, another one. Adoption, yeah, adoption, not surprised to see that at all. I think it's really challenging to bring this sort of stuff in. Hopefully some of the stuff I've talked about can help you with that in your firms and help overcome some of those things. The other, honestly, would love to know what some of the other stuff is. So if you want to post it in the chat or can send it through afterwards, we would really love to understand that better. On the confidence side of things, that being low, that's excellent. So great. So everyone's bought in. So there's just other challenges, right? Knowing where to find it, how to bring it in, and also investing that time and that money to do so. Really, really interesting. Thank you. And also really, really confidence inspiring, actually, given that those results. So thank you so much for completing those. Right. What I want to do now is cover quite a bit of detail in 3 benefit themes as to why automation is essential for effective resource management and, as a result, your entire firm. So I've got 3 benefit themes I'm going to talk through, 3 kind of high-level benefits, and then some points below those, which can bring them to life a bit more, I would hope, as well. So benefit 1, you get to evolve your resource management practices. Okay, and that can be summarized in 4 ways, as I've put here below. Plenty more, I'm sure, but here's how I've decided to group them today. So you've got cost reductions. Obviously, where there are time savings, there are cost savings, but more distinctly, the opportunity is for automation to help optimize utilization in order to reduce costs, right? It's not simply about trying to completely automate the resource management function. It's about optimizing for increased profit and reduced costs, whatever that means to your firm, okay? That's the important thing to note. We've got efficiencies as well in there as well. So most people don't actually reject automation. And I think that's probably evident based on some of the polls that we've taken already here. So they see the opportunity to reduce laborious and manual tasks, and then they welcome it. If a task is repetitive in nature, there's definitely room for efficiency and automation. And we've seen huge rises in RPA, robotic process automation, as companies like Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism, and UiPath have experienced tremendous growth and success over the more recent years. I'm sure the past 5 to 7 years, those have really grown incredibly. Even on the Dayshape side, when it comes to automation, even on things like reporting, we're hearing average savings of more than 4 hours per week just running reports for different teams, and that's quite a small part of the day-to-day. Also, we did a survey towards our resource managers from customers, and we got results back whereby 92% of resource managers said using a product like Dayshape had significantly improved their day-to-day work, and they would struggle without something like that moving forward. And I think that comes back to the point I made very early on around having the core resource management bits in place, regardless of the journey towards full automation or any level of automation. So the predictability element. So when we kind of talk about planning and resource management as a big game of Tetris, if you imagine a big Gantt chart or any kind of wall planner chart. When it's a manual game of Tetris with hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of people, predicting needs and outcomes is almost impossible, I would say. Not literally, because it's not actually impossible, but from a planning perspective, the task is largely insurmountable. So if everything's being done manually, it's just an incomprehensible amount of work and time to get that done. And that's really kind of why I'm saying impossible in reality. So a lot of firms spend weeks or even months in the year during their planning cycle. And that sort of time just isn't available every month or every week, which is why that planning automation is so crucial, making things a lot more predictable by instantly getting a view of how things could be or should be if this thing happened. So that's the kind of predictability there around how your resource management practices can evolve. We've also spoken to a number of firms out there who really would like to be able to bid better for work as well, and having a reliable tool that can allow them to predict how work would be completed and by when, that allows them to go back with high confidence in the bid process, because their reputation will soon increase with the confidence that they're giving at the bid point, instead of saying, oh yeah, we bid that, but actually it's going to be this many months late or delayed or this amount of change in price. So it really helps right from the beginning of winning an engagement. Okay, lastly on this benefit 1 is mitigating risks. So of course, when we increase accuracy and reliability of data, there are far fewer opportunities for error. I heard from a top 10 firm once, because they didn't really have a lot of tied-in systems and good automation for getting data and management information, that they would review their engagement financials once a month from about 5 or 6 different sources of the truth. And so when you think about that, there's really, some rather questionable data at best bringing that together, and the amount of risk that increases for them from an overrun or write-off, or just how they're assigning people to work perspective is just pretty great. So that's the sort of stuff that we want to eliminate through this initial benefit here. So benefit 2. 4 points this time I want to make on benefit 2, and this one is to deliver more strategic value. So resource management can be honed as a strategic discipline. We're seeing more firms say they want to do that. We've been sort of putting that message out there for a while, and it really is the direction that it's going in. So centralized resourcing is more strategic resourcing. And by that, I mean unifying service lines under centralized resourcing strategies instead of building siloed resourcing teams, fragmented processes. Instead of doing it that way, you're bringing it together and you're unlocking that ability to share resources and optimize that utilization, and you're building the firm-wide view of performance. So this is taking away hours of unnecessary effort and misaligned internal processes. So that centralized resourcing, however you would use it or what it means to you, definitely has got tons of advantages. There's also the value add opportunities. So automation as the key value add area, rather than, like I said earlier on, replacing resource managers, it creates new opportunities. So instead of replacing people, it will free people up to add more value by solving difficult challenges and work on more complex problems, which ultimately takes your firm forward. Okay, and this also means people are going to be working more efficiently. This will probably lead to increased happiness and morale. And inevitably, these things will all lead to generating more business growth. So it's all that kind of positive pathway forward. Automation also has the power to create capacity, and that capacity can then be used to pursue more value add opportunities. So you're really looking to elevate the resource manager's role and benefiting your business and your clients as a result of that. And so this is how your highly skilled and committed resource managers get their license to become a lot more strategic in your firm. And then we'll see that, I think, what was it, 48% of C-suite not seeing it as strategic. We'll see that change when the Resource Management Institute is doing more surveys in the future. Okay, third one, freedom to forward think. Okay, obviously less firefighting and more streamlined processes gives you a lot more headspace for whatever you need to do, right? Whatever you need to find time to do that day, that week, or that month. This could be strategic projects, innovative ideas, employee engagement opportunities, and so on. Actually, at Dayshape, we have Innovation Week. And so this is something we do, I think it's twice a year, we carve out 1 week, and it is dedicated to generating ideas across the company and creating loads of cross-departmental collaboration. And so some great ideas have come from these, from employee videos and creating more training content, and just generally getting really great communication. The sort of secondary benefit is getting that really great communication across all departments and teams in the organization. Fourthly, here on the client service side of things, so introducing automated project controls. This is where the right checks and balances are being made continuously as an engagement is being delivered. So this will ensure that you maintain that first-class service because the automation software has got your back. And that's really what you're shooting for. You're shooting for the tools to have your back that allow you to then focus on getting on with the job and doing a great job of it. So alerting you to what you need to know if there's an overrun risk, or if you've got capacity shortfalls, or maybe if your engagement margin could be increased. You need to know that the automation software has got everything under control so that you can focus on motivating your people, doing a great job and keeping your clients happy. And that's really the goal with automation, I think, there. There's a third benefit here, which of course is a very important one, and that is down to improving people's working lives. So the opportunity to change corporate culture for good is about much more than efficiencies. Thinking about technology in a way to really complement and support the team, right? It's no longer the norm just to be quite static and not shift your operational mechanisms. So this is not only right or true when it comes to general workforce deployment optimization, but also, think about assigning people work that actually interests them and engages them more. So really understanding what the interests are, what the passions are, and making alignment between those areas, career expectations, really helps you get a lot more from your people who enjoy being at your firm a lot more as well. So the improved people's working lives piece really comes from being able to work on jobs that can help people develop their careers, but also take the bigger picture into account with regards to redressing that balance that I was talking about earlier on. Giving people more autonomy is going to help empower your teams to do what they enjoy and what motivates them. And so automated controls can help to make sure that the right things are being done from the company's perspective, from the firm's perspective, but also allow the employee to make their decisions in there as well, right? So you are making sure that the firm's the practitioners, and the client's needs are all met through those automated project controls, but giving people autonomy to do as they would like to, as much as possible. Diversity, big one. I want to really just call out that automation has no biases really. We've seen great progress when it comes to broader diversity during intakes at big firms from some published data, but this diversity does become less as people progress up the ladder. And we think that automated resource management can be synonymous with objective decision making. And that's really going to help maintain broad levels of diversity throughout your firm. So that's a really big one, and one I've been asked about numerous times by people throughout a firm, but certainly partners are asking a lot about things like this, which are really important to the direction. Curbing burnout, of course, if you're able to predict a lot better and look forward, then you can plan a lot better, prevent that kind of burnout, and just really make sure that people are being deployed and in the best and fairest way. Now, I'm not saying working long hours should be or could be eradicated. I've worked in quite a few small companies, and I know what it's like to start them and get them off the ground, and it's not possible doing a 9 to 5. And I think a lot of people doing jobs that you guys do aren't looking for that, but they are looking to have better planning in order to have expectations set and managed appropriately, and better capacity planning as well. So that's really what's quite important there, and achievable. And lastly, retention. Improving people's working lives, of course, leads to motivated, happy, and engaged people, which means they stay at your firm. It means they encourage more people to join your firm. They do better work. They don't detract from others, and they continually develop their skills and probably become your leaders of the future. So that's why this one is really important. And I don't think people need a lot of convincing on this, to be honest. It's a big sort of MO of Dayshape's, and it's something we're hearing people want to bring in a lot more. The challenge is, of course, how do we do that whilst making sure everything else is working? And that comes back to that redressing the balance that I've been speaking about a bit throughout this presentation. So a bit on embracing automation, and so to wind things down, give you a few sort of tips maybe on this as to how you should take this away. Working environments are constantly changing. Quality standards and regulations are constantly changing. And what employees want from their working lives has shifted. So when we started to scale Dayshape, a common expression used by one of our founders was get comfortable being uncomfortable, which really stuck with me and something I use myself now. So for those wanting to succeed, this means being comfortable with change, right? As humans, most of us don't like too much change, too much of the time, but automation is essential, and automation is a key part of that required change in order to succeed. So embracing it requires that long-term mindset. It requires focus and iteration, awareness and care, and commitment and investment of your time and money. And so these are really the ways. So clearly articulating the people benefits for implementing automation will help within hearts and minds. It's more than maximizing efficiency and productivity. You got to help your people and leaders understand that investing in the right technology and the right solutions is ultimately an investment in your people and your firm. And so that's almost what I would leave you with. However, I want to just finish on a bit of a cautionary graph. And it's something we probably know anyway, but take the visuals away, because I think you'll find it's quite helpful. Because if you have this steep increase in automation, right, you've convinced people to bring it in, they say yes, and then maybe some people want to run faster than others. You run the risk of eroding trust here at this point. So if you're going too steep, you're at the risk of eroding trust, and you can end up starting further back than you were when your automation journey began. No one wants this kind of automation forced upon them. So start at the lower end, build that trust, de-risk the implementation process, increase automation as trust and appetite increases. And that's exactly how you'll achieve success with that. And it's how we do it with our customers. We don't go straight in with full automation. We gradually introduce it and talk about it with our customers as they need to. So this is the sort of thing that you're aiming for with any new process or technology really coming in. The focus is on change management is vital, but as part of this, what should also be a key consideration is that automation trust curve. So make measuring that part of your success criteria of putting a project like this in place. Figure out how to measure that and keep on top of it, because that'll be key to your long-term success, and it won't set you back all the steps that you've progressed so far. Thank you very much. I'll hand it over to Lara. Thanks very much.
Thank you. So let's move on to our Q&A session then. So we've had some interesting ones come in, so thank you to those that have dropped them in the Q&A. If you think of one now, please drop it in there. That we'll probably still have time to get through quite a few here. So I like the sound of this one, so I'm going to start with this one for you, Richard, if that's all right. So how do you see the role of the resource manager evolving with automation?
Well, I think I think a lot of the things I've touched on there in the talk. I think some resource managers know they need something, but they don't necessarily know exactly what, and something like the kind of automation that I've been describing is what's going to help them. So I see the way it evolves is that it's less about, oh, I need Bill, Bob, and Sue because I worked with them on the last job. Can you get them at all costs, and just being reactive to these demands and shouts, and whoever shouts loudest getting served. But much more the resource manager being consulted with, how should we best staff this up? What did we do last time and what worked? What were the trends from last year and what do the results look like? Encouraging the resource manager to have more responsibility for how the firm operates and delivers and gets results, and therefore being able to just really add that value that they probably a lot could anyway, but just need the right tools to get that data. Probably a lot of thinking that way anyway, and I think this sort of way of working gives them a voice. So that's how I think it'll change based on some of my more immediate hands-on experience.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, so less push and pull and more strategic, bigger picture.
Yeah.
Thank you. So one for you, Sam. Could you give us some examples of day-to-day resource management tasks that could be automated?
Sure. Working with the customers as they're live and living their Dayshape journey, I see quite a few different examples of this. One thing, just from a kind of general point of view, is we see that resource managers often spend a lot of time building the perfect plan. As Richard touched on in the presentation, things don't really often go that way. As soon as the plan's out in the wild, changes start happening, and the resource managers are left firefighting, and they don't really have a lot of time to do a huge amount else. And so by introducing automation and doing that as a phased approach, we find that the kind of small day-to-day tasks and admin are taken care of by the automation. The bumps in the road are kind of smoothed out and absorbed, as it were, and it's doing the firefighting for you. So instead of being that firefighter that's hands on the pump, you can move to being far more strategic and looking at the bigger picture and getting that plan.
Great, thank you, Sam. And we had another question come in on the Q&A there as well. So that's great. Good to see those coming in. We will go to another question, one for you, Richard. Could you share any tips for choosing the right automation tool?
I think I would probably answer that not in a way that is how do you implement the right automation tool, but rather how do you implement any tool? I think the same kind of approach applies. So when implementing any tool, I think the important thing is to follow quite a good process, right? It's about making sure that there are people in that internal team who can do the legwork, who are connected to people through the firm, but are also sponsored by, supported by, empowered by somebody with real authority to make change in the firm as well. If those things are affirmed, then there can be key stakeholders identified in all the appropriate service lines and areas in order to bring the requirements together. It's important for that internal team to then explain where they are and where they want to go to those people and get really clear, at least high-level requirements initially on what they would like to achieve to get there, or how they'd like to get there, or what's stopping them from getting there, what they've tried before, etc. I think once that's being done, then they can move to sort of more detailed documented requirements to get people on the same page. What I actually see happen more often than I think a lot of people would like is that these things are done in isolation because different service lines do have quite different needs. But I think a lot of people will also be surprised that maybe 50 to, I don't know, maybe 50 to 70%, if not more, maybe 70 to 80% possibly of those requirements are shared across a firm. So in actual fact, things are a lot more similar than people often realize. And I think some of that is because those earlier stages are done a bit more in isolation and aren't as joined up. So that's how I would say go about any kind of software purchase or review. And I've been involved in doing this sort of stuff for 15 plus years. And that's when I see it work successfully, whether it's for an automation tool or any software product. It's that following those proper processes and getting requirements clear. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you, Richard. I've got one it's related but at a different stage. So more on embarking on that implementation phase, and one for you, Sam, if you don't mind. What advice would you give to firms then at that stage, so they're just about to embark on that implementation? Key things to look out for, key advice for them.
Yeah, no problem. I think the fundamental point is, Rome wasn't built in a day. You need to start small and build trust and work with that curve, as Richard talked about. You need to be honest about what makes sense to automate and what actually still needs the human touch. Sometimes that can be things like challenging your approvers to let go of small tasks so they're freed up to look at the bigger picture. For example, we see quite a lot of moves to having automatic transitions through workflows, for example. So for example, we set up the criteria to say if all these margins and criteria are met, then yes, absolutely, going through and pop it through. And it means that approvers and key personnel are only getting hands-on with exceptions. So it becomes much more efficient and they're able to look across different things. Another thing that we see quite often is, look at your kind of the 80-20 split, your volume of tasks that need to be allocated and scheduled. Can you do all things for a certain grade? It's often the kind of the lower, more menial tasks, without meaning that in a bad sense. Can you auto schedule those up to the group of people, and then your resource management people are left to focus on the kind of the hard stuff, as it were. So you're using it in that hybrid way and building that trust as it goes.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. So I guess really visualizing those benefits to people and bringing them along the journey. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. We did have some more questions, but yeah, we're at good time now. So just to wrap up then. Yeah, if you do have any further questions for us, and if you'd like to know more about Dayshape and how we could help your firm, we would love to hear from you. And we can work with your team to identify opportunities to add efficiencies and help you embrace the many benefits of automation. And if you are ready to see more, we can organize a tailored demo to show you Dayshape in action and highlight the features our customers love most. So thinking about those highly configurable workflows, live engagement financials, and automation all built into a user-friendly interface. So yeah, do get in touch with us if you'd like to see more. But better yet, if you happen to be in Dallas this week, you can meet us in person. We'll be attending the Resource Management Global Symposium on Thursday and Friday. And on the other side of the world, on the other side of the slide, we will be in Marlow. Our team will be attending the Alternative Accountancy events. And if you are attending, we'll be there tomorrow till Friday. So drop us a message if you're there. We'd love to meet you. And that is all from us. Final note from me, just to say thank you for joining us today. Please don't get in touch with us, hesitate to get in touch with us, talk about all things automation, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us. All right.